Welcome to the 3 Miracles of Happiness, a presentation by Coach Gerry Faust. In his 18 years of coaching at Cincinnati's Moeller High School, Coach Faust produced a 174, 17, and 2 record to go with 7 unbeaten seasons, 4 mythical national prep titles, and 5 Ohio State titles. He then coached Notre Dame to a 30, 26, and 1 record, including a 1983 Liberty Bowl victory and a 1984 Aloha Bowl appearance. In this inspirational talk, Coach Faust relates the dramatic stories from his own life to illustrate the direct connection between our personal success, our prayers, and our faith and trust in God. Coach Gerry Faust.
All right, before I get started, I want to thank Mike Anderson. I think we ought to give Mike a big round of applause. 3 years is just a great conference. I got 2 of my friends here, Tom Seaman. Tom played guard for Frank Leahy back in the 50s, 51 and 52, and as a father of 8 children. Am I right, Tommy?
Say again?
How many children? 8? 8?
Yeah.
So I thought, 8 children. And he flew me here, and Dr. Knapp flew me here, and they've go to a lot of these conferences. Stand up, both of you. I want everybody to give a round. They flew the tough time today. They had tough flying today. A great friend of mine that I had the opportunity to coach with is now your head coach here at the University, Western Michigan University. Bill Kubik has been a friend of mine for almost 15, 20 years. When we worked together at Akron U, I knew that his future was bright because he's a quality person, a good Catholic man, good Catholic family. He's got a great family. His son Ryan that plays quarterback at Western Michigan here. Have them both stand up. Let's give them a round of applause for a great year. You're very lucky to have Bill and his family here in your community. And he loves Western Michigan, and I'm sure you people love him for the great job he's doing. My title today is The 3 Miracles of Happiness. Christ, the Blessed Mother, our family, our friends, our faith should be the center of our life. The 3 things I'm going to talk to you on, I'll get to in a minute. My dad was my high school football coach. I have to give you a little background. And he was tougher than nails on me. I was a quarterback for him. Ryan, you know what it's like. And every time something happened on the practice field, I'd get the swat. I'd have to bend over and touch my toes, and he had an old leather strap, and he'd rack me. This was in the 50s. It was called tough love in those days. Today it would be called abuse. But anyhow, the times I wouldn't talk to my dad. But there wasn't a man or I couldn't have a better mother than my mother and a better father than my dad. And I loved them both deeply, and I know they loved me both deeply till God took them. When I tried to ask my dad to do things, the answer always came out no. So I got smart as a junior in high school. I went to my mother, and I said, Mom, ask Dad if I can do this. Well, instead of 100% no, it came back 50% yes. I said, I'm in business. So I always went to my mother. That's why I go to the Blessed Mother. What more appropriate thing can you do than go through the Mother of God to ask God for something? If it works from my mother to my father, why wouldn't it work from the mother to the son? And that's why I pray very devoutly to the Blessed Mother, through her to Christ. And it's been great. When I was in 6th grade playing CYO football, I learned the memorare because our football team got up right before the championship CYO game. We were playing, and Russ Sweetman, an 8th grader, led the memorare at the altar of Our Lady of Mercy Parish, where I belonged, went to school in Dayton, Ohio. And we ended up winning the CYO championship. I said, by golly, if the memorare wins the CYO championship, I'll pray it the rest of my life. And I have. When I went to high school and college, I used to pray a lot to the Blessed Mother and to God. Then I got a job at Moeller High School in Cincinnati. I got a call from Brother Everslades. He asked me if I wanted the job. I told him no. I wasn't ready. I was the assistant coach at Dayton Chaminade. He says, come on down. I went down. He and my dad worked together. My dad taught at the same high school for 50 years, Catholic High School in Dayton Chaminade. Went out, I took the job. I had no intention of taking it. I took it. It was a brand new school called Archbishop Moeller High School on the northeast side of the city. And in the back of the building, there's a big statue of the Blessed Mother and a Christ child in her hand. And it says, Our Lady of Moeller. And underneath it says, the true secret of success is to interest the Blessed Virgin in it. And I prayed there every morning when I went to work and every night when I left. And I prayed for three things. I was 25 years old, 24 years old at that time. I prayed that we'd win football games at Moeller High School. I prayed that I'd meet the right Catholic girl. And I prayed that someday I'd be the head football coach at Notre Dame. And all three of those prayers were answered. All three of them. In 1980, my wife says, let's go up to Notre Dame to the spring game. I said, Marlene, I don't have time. I said, I got too much to do as AD and football coach at Moeller. I don't have time. She said, we owe it to our kids. I said, Marlene, we spend quality time with our children. She says, no, our kids that are playing at Notre Dame. I says, you know what? You're right. I never thought of that. But we had 6 young men playing at Notre Dame from Moeller High School at that time. So we went up to the spring game. It had only been the 3rd time I'd ever been there in my life. The first time when I was recruited by Leahy in 1953. The second time when I took our coaching staff from Moeller High School up there to meet with Coach Eric Parsegian and his staff. And the 3rd time was the spring game of 1980. And I went to the grotto. I found the grotto the first time behind the Basilica of Notre Dame. I went down the grotto. I took my kids down there. We knelt at the altar in the spring game. There's all kinds of people down there. And I saw my kids praying to God and to the Blessed Mother. It's the greatest sight I could see. They were 5th graders, 6th and 8th grade, something like that. And my wife was there praying, and I was praying, and I got up and I lit a candle. And I lit a candle for each one of our children, that God would protect those children. I lit a candle for my wife, that God would protect her. I lit a candle for my mom. He would protect her. My dad, he would protect her. And my mother-in-law lived with us, that God would protect her. Then I lit the last candle. And I said, if I ever became the head football coach at the University of Notre Dame, I would come to this grotto every day I was in South Bend. 2 weeks later, not even 2 weeks, about 12 days later, I'm in my office. And I'm on the other phone, and one of the coaches answers the other phone. He says, Coach, there's a priest on the other phone. I went over the phone, and I said, this is Gerry Faust. He said, Coach, this is Father Joyce. I said, Father, how you doing? He said, great, I'm going to be in town. He said, I'd like to meet with you. I said, great, Father, I haven't seen you for a while. I'd like to see you too. So I went downtown to a hotel near the convention center about 3 weeks later, met with Father Joyce, and we were sitting up there talking on the 7th floor of this building. I'll never forget it. And Father stood about 6'4", had his Roman collar on. And we talked, and all of a sudden, he turned to me and he says, Coach, would you be interested in being the head football coach at Notre Dame? This was 2 weeks, not even 2 weeks, when the first call came after I lit that candle. I turned to him with tears in my eyes. I said, Father, it would be a dream come true. He said, well, Coach Devine may or may not step down. His wife's very sick, and he's thinking of stepping down so he can take care of her and move her to a warm climate. But we don't know yet. But we talked for a while, and I can't go through all that because I don't have the time today to do it. But on November 24th, 1980, I was named the 24th head football coach at the University of Notre Dame. A dream come true. And I never broke the promise. The first place till this day, when I go to South Bend, the first place I stop is to the grotto and light a candle and say a prayer of thanksgiving. Because it was a dream that came true. Now I look back at it now, and I look back, and we ended up 30-26-1. That's not very good. We lost 16 games by 8 points or less in the time I was there. If we'd have won those, we'd have been 46-10-1. We won the big games. Pitt, we're first in the country. LSU, down there, Southern Cal 3 straight times. But we lost to Air Force and schools like Purdue. And you just can't do that and be the head coach at Notre Dame. In the second year at Notre Dame, we came close to winning the national championship. And you say, how could you do that? We were 4-0. We had beaten Miami and Hurricanes in Michigan. And we lose to Arizona 13-16 on a bad call. Then we lose tied Oregon 13-13. Then we lose our quarterback after we beat Pitt. And so we lose to Penn State 14-24 and lose to Air Force 17-30. And then we get Blair back and we lose to Southern Cal on the phantom touchdown 13-17, which we won the game, really. And it was proven in the papers the next day. But those are things that happen. So 5 years at Notre Dame, I decided, when Timmy Brown, I saw him in the locker room crying after the game, and I went up to him, I said, what's wrong, Timmy? He said, I lost the game. I dropped the pass that won the game against LSU. I turned to him, I said, Timmy, you didn't lose the game. I lost the game. There are 5 or 6 calls I could have made in the game that would have made a difference that you wouldn't have had to make that catch. So I said, don't put the burden on yourself. The burden's on me. Right then, I decided to step down. And I went in 2 days later and saw Father Joyce, talked to Father Hesburgh. He was in a nuclear disarmament meeting, and I stepped down as the head football coach at Notre Dame. And it was tough. It was a dream job. But I did the right thing. And I knew I was doing the right thing. But it was still tough. And then 9 years later, I was at Akron U. We had a bad year, and we ended up 1-10, and I get fired by a person that I got the AD job for 6 months earlier. And he calls in, he fires me, and he says, I said, why are you firing me? And he says, I'm firing you because you're too good to kids, too good to the players. And I turned to him and I says, you know, I always thought coaching was where you're supposed to be good and help kids out. That's what coaching's all about, help them develop themselves in life. I says, if you want to fire me for being 1-10, I don't have a problem with that. You fire me because I'm too good at kids, I got a real problem with that. He says, okay, I fired you for 1-10. And that was good enough. I said, fine. So I got fired. It's tough to get fired. Some of you have probably been fired, but you didn't spend 3 hours on a live television program back in Akron, Ohio, answering questions to the press and things like that, and walking out. And after you've worked all those years, know not what you're going to do, you know. But I was able to handle it. And the guy that fired me is a good friend to this day. I called him next year at Christmas time, and he's at Xavier now, and he took the call reluctantly. And I said, Mike, Merry Christmas. And he started laughing. He says, Coach, you call me and wish me a Merry Christmas? I says, yeah. I says, you did me a favor. When you fired me, you put 20 years on my life. I says, that job is so tough. I says, I was going nuts by doing it, and you did me a favor as I look back at it. And we laughed about it, and we're friends to this day. Don't ever hold anything against anybody. Life's too short for that. Don't hold anything against anybody. Everybody, I forget those things. Only one person does that stuff, and that's God. He's the one that's the judge, not me, not you. But you know why I was able to handle all this stuff? Because I was blessed with 3 things. Number 1, the love of God and the love of my Catholic faith. Number 2, the love of family. Number 3, the love of friends and the love of self. The love of God, the first one I want to cover. Believe in God, His Son, the Son's mother, and the Holy Spirit. Allow the Holy Spirit to permeate throughout your everyday in your thoughts. Our prayers and our works and our very being have the Holy Spirit present. In all ways, acknowledge Him, and He will put you on the right path and get you straight. There's nothing like the good Lord. He never taught a lesson in the classroom. He had no tools to work with, no blackboard maps or charts. He used no subject outlines, kept no records, gave no grades. His only text was ancient and well-worn. His students were the poor, the lame, the deaf, the blind, the outcasts. His method was the same with all who came to hear. He opened eyes with the faith. He opened ears with simple truths. He opened hearts with love. A love born of forgiveness. A gentle man, a humble man. Yet this quiet teacher from the hills of Galilee has fed the needs, fulfilled the hopes, changed the lives of many millions. For what he has taught brought heaven to earth and God's heart to mankind. And he has brought us all here today to be with him and celebrate this afternoon his Mass. Love of faith. Go to Mass an extra day of the week. Get up a little early and go. It's a great way to start the day out. Adoration. In our parish, we have adoration every Wednesday, perpetual adoration for the day. Go in there. Spend a half hour, 20 minutes. Every time I'm in town on Wednesdays, I go in there and I say 2 rosaries for my family and my friends. And then I leave. It takes me about 20, 25 minutes. It's great to be in the presence of God. I was in Lourdes in 1989. I went with a buddy of mine, Ken Steiner, and we took we went to Fatima, Lourdes, and Medjugorje in Yugoslavia. Fatima's in Portugal and Lourdes is in France. And Ken and I went, and the only plane that was late, the one was going to Lourdes. And we got to Lourdes 3 hours after the time we wanted to get there. And so we wanted to go to Mass, and it was in the late afternoon. But I told Kenny, before we look for Mass, I got to go to the grotto. So I go down the grotto, and here's the grotto of Notre Dame right there. Except this is the real grotto. I knelt down there, and I thanked God for 4 or 9 years earlier for allowing me to coach at Notre Dame. And the tears came down my face because I was there where the Blessed Mother appeared to Bernadette. And it was probably one of the greatest moments of my life. And so we prayed there for a while, and then we got up, and we went up at top where the basilica is, and we saw these 2 priests walking across the campus, and I yelled out, "Hey, Father, do you speak English?" And they did, and they were from Ireland. They were Irish priests. And I says, "Do you know where there's Mass?" It's 5 o'clock at night. And he says, "Yes, we're saying Mass for the sick up in the hospital." I said, "Can we go?" And they said, "Yes." So we went up, and one priest went with the woman. We went with the other priest to the men's ward. The men's ward was about this big, about the size of this whole room here. And it was setting the table up, and there were 80 people in wheelchairs or in beds, and another 100 and some people taking care of these sick from Ireland. So we sat down behind the bench there, and I sat in the middle, and Kenny sat there, and an Irishman was sitting there, and I liked the Irish brogue anyhow. So I'm talking to the Irishman, just passing time way before Father started to say Mass, because I love to hear the brogue. And they were from Dublin. We were talking all about that. And he asked me where I was from. And I says, "I'm from Ohio." And he says, "Where's Ohio?" I says, "Well, you know where those 5 Great Lakes are?" He says, "Yeah, I'm right in the middle." So I know where that is. So anyhow, he says, "What are you doing over here? You sick?" I says, "No." I says, "Back home, I worked at a place that has a grotto like this, and I wanted to come to the original grotto." And Kenny turns to me and says, he was the head football coach at Notre Dame. And the guy turns, the Irishman turns and says, "What's Notre Dame?" And I started laughing. I says, "It's not that important, is it?" And it isn't. It isn't. So anyhow, I turned to him and I says, "Are you here helping the sick?" He says, "No, I got lymphoma cancer. I got 4 months to live." And I looked at him, and he looked great. I says, "You look great." I says, "Have you dipped in the water yet?" Because there's over 100 proven miracles at Lourdes. And I says, "Have you dipped in the water yet?" He says, "No, tomorrow." I says, "Well, maybe when you dip in the water, one of those miracles will happen to you." And he turned to me in his Irish brogue, and he said this, and I'll never forget these words as long as I live. He said, "Gerry, I'm 48 years old. I have 4 sons. 2 out of high school, 2 almost out of high school. I lived my life. If a miracle's going to happen, let it happen for one of those 6 little kids." There were 6 kids in a wheelchair, under 6. They had not lived their life. I turned away, and the tears started coming down my face because I was sitting next to a saint, and I knew I couldn't give my life up for someone else. I knew that, and I felt terrible about that. And it really bothered me. And when we went to Medjugorje, I was still praying on that thing because I felt just really despondent over the whole thing because I should be wanting to do that, but I couldn't do it. And then it came to me. Christ wants us to give. You don't have to give your life, but he wants us to give the best way each one of us can give. He's not asking us all to give his life, but he's asking us all to give. And you're all in here are talented in some way or manner. Use that talent and give. And help other people and help the church. And right then, That was one of the most precious moments of my life that I learned that I had to give to other people. Pray. I was in Medjugorje and I met Viska, and I'm not going to go through that story because it's a long story, but I was supposed to meet with Viska, one of the visionaries, in the morning, and she got burnt and she couldn't meet with me, but she was going to keep one visit for that day, and the rest she was canceling out. And I was so upset going over to the church to go to Mass that I was looking up the clouds and saying, Lord, I came all this way on my birthday, and I'm not going to see a visionary. And so anyhow, I go in there, and the long story short, we ended up with these camera people. They went up to meet Father Joseph up in the mountains, and we went with him there, and then it came back, and we were supposed to meet a nun to say the way of the cross, and they asked if we wanted to go meet a visionary. I said, yeah, I want to go. Kenny said, no, we got to meet the nun. He says, you go meet the nun. I'm going to meet the visionary. So anyhow, we go. We drive over to the house. All people standing outside. We walk in the house. I'm the last guy to walk in this house, and they were going to have a witness from one of the visionaries. You know who it was? It was Viska. Can't believe it. I saw Viska on my birthday. So anyhow, she was there, and she can't speak a word of English. And I was watching. I was in her bedroom, and she had a statue of the Blessed Mother that big in there from the floor. And the people were talking, and she was talking in her language, Yugoslavian, Slovenian, whatever it was. I don't know. But anyhow, after it was all over with, I wanted to meet her. So I asked the interpreter, can I meet Viska? And Viska said, sure. So I went up, and I shook her hand. And then I says, can I ask her something? So she asked him, and she says, yes. And I says, I'm always tempted. And I said, how can I get over temptations? I'm always tempted. And so she asked her, she came back, and here's the answer I got. After Viska told her, then she interpreted to me. Pray, pray, pray. The power of prayer is the only answer. Pray, pray, pray. The power of prayer is the only answer. And it works. It works. Every time I'm tempted, I say a Hail Mary. And boom, it gets rid of it. Prayer is so important. How you pray, that's up to you. I was in adoration the other day, and I walked in there, and I had my rosary out, and I started praying, and this woman was kneeling right next to the Eucharist, and she was singing. And she started to stop. I said, you keep on doing what you're doing. She says, you don't bother me one bit. She had a beautiful voice, and she was singing to God. And when she got up to leave, I grabbed her. I says, God has blessed you with a beautiful voice. I says, I enjoyed every second of that. And she thanked me. I don't know who she was. But that's the way she prays. See, there's so many ways to pray. Just pray the way you feel comfortable. You know? I'm going to go over this real quick, and I shouldn't because it's going to take a little time, but this is a true story. And it moves me every time I read it. The old man's daughter asked the local priest to come and pray with her father, who was ill and bedridden. When the priest arrived, he found the man lying in bed with the head propped up with two pillows and an empty chair beside his bed. The priest assumed the old fellow had been informed of his visit. I guess you were expecting me, Father said. I'm the new associate pastor here at the parish. When I saw the empty chair, I figured you knew I was coming over here. Oh, yeah, the chair, said the bedridden man. Would you mind closing the door? The puzzled priest shut the door. I never told anyone this, not even my daughter, said the man. But all my life, I've never known how to pray. At Sunday Mass, I used to hear the priest talk about prayer, but it always went right over my head. I abandoned any attempt to prayer, the old man continued, until one day about 4 years ago, my best friend said to me, Joe, prayer is just a simple matter of having conversation with Jesus. Here's what I suggest. Sit down on a chair, place another empty chair in front of you, and in faith, see Jesus in the chair. It's not spooky because he promised, I'll be with you always. Then just speak to him and listen in the same way you're doing to me right now. So, Father, I tried it. I liked it so much that I do it a couple hours every day. I'm careful, though. If my daughter ever saw me talking to an empty chair, she'd either have a nervous breakdown or send me off to a funny farm. 2 nights later, the daughter called the priest to tell her that her daddy had died that afternoon. Did he seem to be at peace? Father asked. Yes, when I left, he told one of his corny jokes, kissed me on the cheek. When I got back from the store an hour later, I found him dead. But there was something strange, Father. In fact, beyond strange, kind of weird. Apparently, just before Daddy died, he leaned over and rested his head on the empty chair beside his bed. Think about that. Christ was there at his deathbed. So there's so many ways to pray. And the way you feel best is the way you should pray. The second thing I want to talk to you about is love of family. Tell your wife you love her. Tell your parents you love them. Tell your kids you love them. To do that more than once. Every time when my mom and dad were, every time I saw them, I gave them a kiss on the cheek, hugged them, and told them I loved them. I tell that with my kids to this day. I talk to my kids every day on the phone. I go over and see two of them live in town. I'm overseeing my grandkids. Every day I'm in town. And I go see my kids. And I tell every one of them I love them and give them a kiss on the cheek. And I tell my wife that I love her. And I give her a kiss on the cheek. You know, when I buried my parents, I knew they were with God because they were good people. They were great Catholics, both of them. Gave everything up. Great Catholics. But I also knew they knew I loved them because I told them that every day of my life. So you don't do it, start doing it. It's so important. Do something different with each of your children or your grandkids. Julie, I was so busy, I used to take her out to supper once a year, just she and I, my daughter. Jerry, I'd take him recruiting with me because he liked to be around recruiting. So he'd fly in a private plane when we recruiting at Notre Dame, take him with me. Steve, we'd go to Mass on Sunday morning, 7 a.m., and I'd take him to McDonald's for breakfast. Then I'd take him home and go back to work. So that's the way you do different things. Also, NCAA basketball tournament comes up. I put $50 up. Tell the kids they don't put anything up. My son-in-law, my two sons, we have pools, and we talk every weekend. You know, and we keep score. It is a great way to communicate with your kids. You know, and if I win, I keep my $50. If I lose, they get $50. So anyhow, but we have so much fun doing it. We talk all the time on it. Every Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night, during NCAA basketball tournament, we do it. Attend the events of your children, your grandchildren, you know, your wife, if she's doing something, go support her. Be there. Like this year, I'm going to miss a Notre Dame game because my wife's having her 50th high school reunion, and I'm going to it in Cincinnati, and I told her I'd be there, and I'm giving up the Notre Dame UCLA game for that. But you got to do that. You got to do things like that. Where would I rather be? I don't know any of her friends. I'd rather be at Notre Dame, you know, that weekend. But that's what I owe it to my wife to do those things. Send a personal letter or note once or twice a year, you know. And here's what I've done. I write them all the time. I write them twice a year. And I'm just going to read the ends of these things. This is to my wife. You have done, I'm just reading the end of it too, because I don't have time. You've done a great job in raising our children, and you've always been there to support me. Bill knows because Nancy's the same way. She takes care of the kids while he works. Almost 33 years, I've looked, this is written 8 years ago. I look back and can honestly say I married the right person. I have a great love for you. God bless you. Thanks for being my best friend. Love, Jerry. For my daughter's Julie. It's Dear Julie Marie. Julie, you're special, and I love you very much. Anything you need, Mom and I will try to help. Take care, and thanks for being such a great daughter. God bless you and Steve always. I love you very much. Love, Dad. That was her first year of marriage. All right, she's got 2 kids now. To my son, Jerry, he was studying for the priesthood at this time. Jerry, I hope you're enjoying your stay at the university, Franciscan University. Everything inside will support you completely. Just make sure you do whatever you feel will make you happy in life and close to God. Mom and I will always be there as long as the good Lord allows us to be here, and we will help you in any way. Advice, support, prayer, or financial support, and, of course, love. Don't ever be skeptical to ask for anything. I love you very much. God bless you. Love, Dad. For my other son, Steve, I love you very much. You're a great son. Mom and I not only are proud of you, but love you very much. God bless you and Pidge. He just got married himself. Steve, you're very special to me. Love, Dad. So I write each one of them every time on this stuff, all the time, and twice a year. And I wait till I think it's a time that I really got something to say. And if it's only 5 lines, and I send it to them. And every Christmas I send, when they come home, I have a special letter to each one of the kids and to their spouse. I also write the spouses. And I think that's a good way to get closer to everybody. In the rooms to this day, we have, in my son's room, we have Gerry Christ, Sacred Heart. In my son Steve's room, St. Joseph. In my daughter's room, the Blessed Mother. And every morning, I get up early in the morning, I go in there and I pray to protect that child that day. And so do things like that, you know. And who gets the gratification out of it? I do. Because I pray an hour a day for my family and my friends to this day. I don't pray for myself. I pray for my family and my friends. Love of self. Love of friends. First, love of self. Be honest with yourself. Know your handicaps and your weaknesses. Keep yourself out of situations that can be embarrassing or cause temptation. Do things for people without people knowing. Be a real father and husband. Forget yourself. Give to your family and to your faith. Always have a smile on your face. For nobody needs a smile so much as those who have none left to give. Love of friends. Tell them when they're sick or they got a problem, you'll pray for them, then pray for them. I got a prayer list in my pocket. When I tell someone I'm going to pray for them, I write their name down and pray for them. Write a note or call them on the phone. I talked to Coach today. One of my friends is with another one of my friends here today. That's what friends are all about. I never gossip. If I do, it's very seldom. It does no good to do that. I never judge anybody. That's God's right, not my right. And I think that's important, that you don't judge other people. And sometimes it gets difficult, but I walk away from it in my mind. You know, when I was coaching at Notre Dame, when I was coaching, we lost 3 straight home football games. And that's a record there. I hate to say it. It's the wrong kind of record. But we lost 3 straight home football games there. And we lost our first game to the Miami Hurricanes, and they were real good that year. And then the second game, we lost to Air Force, who had great football teams the 5 years I was there, except 1 year. This year, they were terrible, and we played terrible. Our first-string quarterback was out, but that's no excuse. We played terrible. We got booed. I was so mad. I was booing with the crowd. I got up in the locker room. We said prayer, Father, bless the kids. And then I ripped into the team. And I told them, I says, you're never going to play football like this again. And I said, the next week is going to be the toughest week you've ever spent in your life. And I says, you have a full scholarship here at Notre Dame. Don't show up Monday if you don't want to play Notre Dame football, and I'll give you your scholarship till you graduate. I don't want you around. And you got the scholarship. You got my word on that. Father Reilly was there. You heard that, didn't you, Father? Yep, you got my word. Monday, every kid showed up. They buttoned their chin straps. Beat the crap out of them Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. We had a Saturday game. Friday, went out in shorts. We played an undefeated South Carolina team. We had them beat to the end of the game. We lost on a fluke fumble. Our guard slipped and went up in the air. The quarterback sneaking for the touchdown. The ball hit the ball with his back foot, popped out. They got the ball. We lose. Got him in there afterwards. We said prayer. Father blessed him. And I turned to him and I said, I was never prouder of a football team in all my life than I was today. And I was. I said, you played with your heart. You gave your all. And that's all you can ask. And I said, if you play like this, we got 4 tough games left. We got LSU ranked 6th in the country next week. We got Navy Academy is one of the better Navy teams up in the Meadowlands. Next week, we got Penn State at home for our only home game. And they're 10th in the country. And we got Southern Cal on the West Coast. They're 12th in the country, and Notre Dame has not beaten Southern Cal in 16 years on the West Coast, and we play like we played today. We'll win those games. We'll come the comeback team in the history of Notre Dame. We go out, We play LSU in 98-degree temperature, down to 96-degree temperature. Came from 40-degree temperature. We played 63 of the 66 kids. Set it up before the game. We were leading 30-10 with 10 seconds to go, won 30-20. Beat the number 6 ranked team in the country on national television. Go up, play Navy. We're losing 17-7 with 4 minutes to go, and they got the ball. We stop and we drive down the field. We score. We go for 2. We make it. We kick off deep. We use the timeouts. We get the ball back. John Carney plays for New Orleans Saints now, kicks a 47-yard field goal. 1 second to go, we beat them 18-17. Next week, we play Penn State. We have them 35-0 at halftime, beat them 44-7. One of the worst defeats in Joe Paterno's history. The next week, we go out on the West Coast. We beat Southern Cal 19-6 in a rainstorm. Became the first team in 16 years to beat Southern Cal on the West Coast, 19-6. Should have been in that locker room after the game. The kids, they were jumping up and down with joy because we got a bowl bid, the Aloha Bowl. And if you ever seen 3,300-pounders do the hula, it was a sight to see because they were all doing it in there. So anyhow, they became the comeback team in the history of Notre Dame. Well, between the South Carolina game and the LSU game, I told the coaches in a meeting on Monday that we were going to give them the kids a day off because we beat the crap out of them the week before and they played great. Let's reward them and give them a day off. And he said, Coach, we can't do that. We got Southern Cal this week. We got LSU this week. I says, that's okay. They deserve it. We're gonna give them a day. I'm going to give you guys a day off. Coach, it's a great idea giving the kids a day off. You know. So anyhow, so I says, Bill, I says, Kubik, you're going with me. He says, Coach, I haven't seen my family in so many weeks. I says, I'll give you another day off. I says, okay. He says, fine. He says, where are we going? I said, we're going hunting. He says, you don't hunt. I says, I know I don't hunt. I says, you don't hunt either, but we're going hunting. So I says, meet me at 6:30 on the campus. So he does. And I get a pickup truck and I get a couple shotguns. We drive up to Goshen, Indiana, and Steiner's house, the farmhouse. And we drive by the barn and up to the house. And we get up to the house up there. And I said, we better go in. And I tell Steiner, I'll knock on the door. You stay in the truck here. I'll stop and knock on the door here and tell him we're going to hunt back here in the woods because he hears that gun coming off. He's wondering who it is. So I walk to the door. I ring the doorbell. He comes to the door and he says, Coach, what are you doing here? You got LSU this week. I says, well, I explained everything to him. He said, Coach, you just lost 3 straight games. I said, I know. I said, but this is what we're doing. He says, Coach, you're my friend. I'm just kidding you. You go hunting anytime you want. I'm glad to have you on my property. I said, fine. So I started to go back to the pickup truck, and he called me back. So he called me back, and he says, Coach, where are you going to park the pickup truck? I said, down by the barn. He said, you see that donkey down there? I said, no, there's a horse down there. He said, no, it's a donkey. I said, okay. I said, I'm going to park down there. He says, well, I got to get rid of the donkey. I said, you what? He says, yeah, it's got cancer. I said, I've had that donkey for 15 years. I said, I don't have the heart to shoot it. Will you shoot it and I'll bury it? I says, I'll be glad to. So anyhow, I get in a pickup truck and I spun out of the gravel driveway. Kubik's sitting right next to me, and I'm driving. I'm going down this thing there, and he says, Coach, what's wrong? I says, you want to know something, Bill? I says, he won't let us hunt. We lost 3 straight games. He ain't going to let us hunt. And Bill says, Coach, you know how people are. He says, you could win if you don't beat the point spread. They still don't like you. I says, yeah, I know that too. So anyhow, I slam on the brakes. He says, what are you going to do? I says, that's Steiner's favorite donkey there. I'm going to shoot their donkey. I'm going to get back at him. And Bill says, you can't do that. And I said, what do you mean I can't do that? He says, you can't do it. And I grabbed the shotgun. He's trying to tackle me. He's yelling, no, Coach. He's an offensive backfield coach, right, Bill? And anyhow, I said, they can't tackle anyhow. So I get out of the car. I run over there, and Bill's yelling, no, Coach, no. And I'm laughing so hard I can't level the gun. So finally, I level the gun. Bang! I hit that donkey, and it goes down. And I looked to see what Bill was doing. He's gone. He ain't even around. I yelled, Bill. Nothing happened. Bill, nothing happened. Bill, nothing happened. All of a sudden, bang. Bill yells, Coach, I got 3 cows. Let's get out of here. Now, that's a joke. That really didn't happen. Most of you people know Bill coached with me at Akron, not at Notre Dame. But that didn't happen. But the reason I tell you the story is the story's got a moral to it. And the moral is probably the most important moral of all, and that's loyalty. The assistant coach being loyal to the head coach. We're all assistant coaches in Christ's kingdom. We got to be loyal to the head coach. That's the key. We got to be loyal to the person next door to us. Got to be loyal in your job. You got to be loyal in this great country, America. We got the greatest country in the world. Sure, we got problems, we got faults, but we're still the best country in the world. And we got to be loyal. We got to be loyal. And we belong to the church Christ founded. And we got to be loyal to that. Now, people of other faiths, God's going to take care of them. They live their faith. But the one thing we have as Catholic that probably a lot of other faiths don't have is the sacraments. And it's so important because they give you the lifting that you need to be with Christ. God is all merciful and all loving. But He's given us a better chance by being Catholic. And that's so important. Life has its ups and downs, but the approach you use about life is a true factor of happiness. Look at the good things. In the end of my book, The Golden Dream, it summarizes what life is all about. Looking not at the bad, but at the good. And I want to read to you the last page of the book. When the University of Akron reassigned me to the development staff, folks, that's like getting fired without exactly getting fired. I moved from one office to another, one life to another. I felt like this plant I have, it withered, looked as if it was going to die, but it didn't, and I haven't. To some it may appear I failed. My record at Notre Dame was just over 500. My record at Akron U was just under 500. But in lifetime, who has had more wonderful opportunities than I've had? I got to build from scratch a high school team into one of the most powerful programs ever. I got to jump from high school to college football program with arguably the richest tradition in America. I got to take the first NCAA program from Division I AA to 1A. Among the way, there has been successes and failures on the field. But in each of these places, Moeller, Notre Dame, and Akron, I made friendships that will last a lifetime. Friendships not based on wins and losses. Former players call and write, not to ask about our victories, but to tell me that football and their coaches that they had made a lasting impression in their lives. I try never to lose sight of what intercollegiate athletics should be. It's about helping student athletes recognize and embrace the principles and live their lives by. Principles that will make them productive citizens in our communities. I know it sounds corny, but it's what's made my career of 37 years with no regrets. I was the right man, if not the right coach for Notre Dame, so I seized the day, and I've never been a dark one. Even in the darkest moments, there's always has been in my mind's eyes, the sun glittering off the golden dome on a dream no less golden. The only shortcut I ever took in my life was to Notre Dame, and how could that be a mistake? It gave me a chance to walk the path I believe God intended for me to take. I know He never let go of my hand along the way, and one day He will let me know how the walk went, and I can live with that. God bless you all. Thank you so much.
Coach, thank you very much. And you asked me this question, and I'll just tell you because a couple of the priests walked in. Thank you for the affirmation. It really does mean a lot to the priest to hear that. And I especially like the idea of taking the priest out to eat once in a while. That's a good idea, too. And, Coach, I'm free for dinner tonight, so, just to let you know.
You want to fly back with us?
Sure, absolutely. I got till the 8 o'clock mass tomorrow, so it's not a problem.
Thank you for watching The 3 Miracles of Happiness with Coach Gerry Faust. For more inspirational presentations, documentaries, and entertainment,